Well, so this afternoon, government says it is committing every available resource to forestall a spillover of violent extremism into Ghana. In April 2022 alone, at least 323 people were reported dead as a result of 48 terror-related incidents which occurred in the West African sub-region. Well, the West Africa Center for Counter-Extremism has been sharing concerns and is warning that with more than 53% of West African countries and all ECOWAS states experiencing insurgencies, plus the pervasive spillover phenomenon in neighboring countries, Ghana's border regions are a key area of concern. Speaking on the probe last night, Deputy Defense Minister Kofi Menu Amankwa says the general public ought to complement government's effort by staying vigilant and reporting suspicious characters. Listen to that interview. Well, so what you have there on your screens are excerpts of what it is that the West Africa Center for Counter-Extremism has been talking about, raising some issues. First of all, about the threat, which is quickly increasing and descending from northern sectors of Africa, particularly the Sahel region, towards the coastal states. We'll bring you what it is that government is doing. But if you look at the breakdown of the figures, some 53% of all ECOWAS states are currently grappling with issues of violence and terrorism. And we also know that Ghana currently has some 352 unresolved chieftaincy conflict as well. Now, the protracted chieftaincy and ethnic conflicts in the border regions also constitute a direct threat and opportunity for extremist exploitation. And that's part of the highlights of the report. But more is also coming up in that report, as we understand that if you take a look at the Global Terrorism Index reports, particularly with 2019 and 2020, there were clear indications that up to 97% of all terrorism fatalities occurred in countries already in conflict. Now, we do know that Ghana's proximity to these countries, that is Burkina Faso, Benin, and also we have Togo as well. These are all areas that could expose our country to extremist attacks, particularly when they are also equally exposed to issues of extremism. But that's not all as well. What we do know is that if you look at government's response over the years, they've launched a number of operations, Operation Conquest Fist, followed by the Exercise Eagle Claw, as well as the Accra Initiative, which was launched in 2017 to deal with the interagency cooperation, coordination, and intelligence sharing amongst member states in the country. So these are some of the interventions that we've been seeing from government so far. But the Defense Ministry is asking for collaboration, not just within the interstate agencies. They are also asking you, the Ghanaian out there, to be vigilant. Take a listen to the Deputy Defense Minister Kofi Amankwa Menu speak last night on the probe. This
issue of the extremist attacks is getting closer. In the month of April 2022, I am talking of just last month, there were about 48 terrorist attacks or terror-related incidents reported in the West African sub-region. And I would like to give you the breakdown. In fact, as a result of these attacks, we had about 323 people being killed, and then 193 being injured. I want to give you the breakdown in the various countries. If you take Burkina Faso, which topped the chart, they had 22 incidents of terrorist attacks or terror-related attacks, out of which 74 people were killed and then 75 people injured. We share border with Burkina Faso. Mm-hmm. You come to Mali. Mali had 13 incidents of attacks, 26 people killed, and then 25 injured. You come to Nigeria, 8 attacks, 198 people killed, and then 68 people injured. You come to Benin, and then Togo, 1, killed 8, and then injured 14. These are countries we deal with. For instance, you take Togo. I mean, for the very first time I went to Togo, I did not go through the main border. I went by a footpath to get to Togo. That shows you how porous our borders are. And so if you have all these neighboring countries experiencing this heinous crime from these groupings, it is so easy for people to enter and go. They will come in anytime and do whatever they want to do. Prof mentioned the issue of the forward operating bases, the FOBs. Currently, government is constructing 15 of them across the northern borders of our country, because we have realized, or intelligence have shown, that most of these activities is coming from the Sahelian regions, Burkina, because if you look at what happened in Togo, this the group that undertook this act were the JNIM, JNIM. These are the Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam Muslimi. This is the group that and it comes from Burkina. And so we are having to experience that most of these activities or most of these groupings engaging in this activity are coming from Burkina. Here we have a porous border. It is, I agree with Prof that yes, we cannot, build walls around our country. We simply cannot do that. But what is it that we can do? I am aware that government is spending a lot of resources into acquiring whatever we will need to really resource our security agencies. The intelligence agencies are being resourced, the armed forces being resourced, the police, immigration. It is a collective. One thing really, MFI, I want to talk about, and that is the reason why, we are kind of reaching out to the churches, the mosque, and all that to be vigilant.
Well, in fact, there's a lot of reactions from the religious bodies themselves. The Muslim community here in Ghana says it's also on high alert as all of its members have been directed and advised to increase awareness and education, particularly during worship times. We'll find out more. Joining us now is spokesperson for the National Chief Imam, Sheikh Arimiao Shaibu. He's joining us now to have a conversation on what it is that the Muslim community here in Ghana is doing about this directive from the National Security Ministry. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
So what particular directives have you given out to your clerics to educate and to increase awareness in these times?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. It appears to me that this is not the first time such an alert has been given, and the issue of trying to get the CCTVs and also the deployment of security personnel around our mosques and so on and so forth. So this one comes to rather really wake up us up again. So one of the things that we intend to do is to use our Friday mosque, because that is the day when every Muslim and every imam of the region, of the district, will be addressing and to send a message across for them to really begin to alert the worshippers, especially in the area of identifying people who appear to be strange and who put up behaviors that is not normal in the area. Our religion is a very open religion that embraces people, and I really appreciate this difficulty where, if you look at our streets now, we find people who have poured from the northern part of Nigeria into our country, and most of them try to find a space within the Muslim community. And it's important that we alert the community so that through these people we don't get the entrance of terrorists or people with criminal intention to enter. So that is something that we need to bring to create the awareness and to keep the alertness also on her.
How worried is the Chief Imam about this?
Definitely, he's worried. As somebody whose spirit and demeanor and philosophy all about life is to keep the community peace, protect life, and to save human blood, and so on and so forth. And the issue of security, if you have been following the Chief Imam, most of the time when he talks about peace, in fact, he makes reference to the security of the sanctuary that was granted to the people of Mecca. And he says that whilst the Quran is talking in history, in terms of implication, it is even referring to Ghana now, meaning that matters of security are also important. For us to be able to worship, you need a secure environment. And so the chief imam, when people, even non-Muslims, visit him, he tries to say that you have been able to visit me here because there is peace and security. Right. So it is a matter of concern, a matter of interest to the national chief imam. And it should not be limited to him alone, to every imam, indeed beyond the religious divide. Every religious leader in this country must be interested in matters of security, not through prayer alone, but ensuring that we make arrangements that guarantees that peace and security are bedmates.
Well, anytime this conversation about violent extremism comes up, then the issue of the prejudice as well, against some of your members also comes up. The fact that some youthful population misrepresents the teachings on jihad and others to perpetrate violence and crime. Now that you're here, you understand the Quran better. Yes. What's your caution to the youth out there who may be lured into some of these groups, as we are learning from the reports from the West Africa Center for Counter-Extremism?
Yeah, I mean, like it is in almost every religion. I mean, interpretation can be very extreme, and people can use the extreme interpretation to their own advantage. And we have seen this across the world, and also Islam is no exception. But it is a disturbing trend that in the modern era, it is Islam as a religion that is suffering the backlash because people are using the name of Islam in perpetrating this kind of heinous attacks, the crime that goes with it. Islam stands for peace. Islam, that's why in our greetings, there is no religion in the world that greets in terms of peace than Islam. So when we meet everybody, what the greetings in terms of wish is that to say, Assalamu alaikum. That is it. Islam accepts that we are a people who are diverse. The Quran accepts and acknowledges there's diversity in nature, even in terms of beliefs. So the Quran makes reference to the people of the book, the Jews, the Christians, the Magians, and other people, and request that we live with them in peace. Let me give you one simple example, if people can. The Holy Quran says, do not insult that which they worship, because if you do, they will also insult your God out of hatred and ignorance. So it means that this is a clear statement of appreciation of diversity. Don't insult another person's religion. Muslims are being cautioned. So if we are being told so, how then can we go ahead and attack people because they don't belong to our faith? The Quran says in Quran chapter 60 verse 8, which is a popular verse of the national chief imam, that Allah does not prevent you with respect to those who do not fight you for your faith, nor chase you out of your homes, that you treat them kindly and justly. And I want us to underscore this. Right. The treatment has been qualified. That treat them kindly and justly, for Allah loves those who are just. Right. If this is a ruling for us to go by, it will be a total contradiction to Islamic teachings for anyone to attack any life for whatever reason.
And since you're bringing this up, it then brings to the fore how your community will collaborate with the government and other stakeholders, in fighting off these threats that we're hearing of, particularly when we know that no one is immune from the activities of the extremists.
Yeah, one of the strongest things, Ghana is blessed. Then I say that because we have a good relationship with Christians in this country, the ground is not soft for the terrorist.
Really?
I can guarantee you that. I am confident. And we are alerting our people that any time we have seen any sign of terrorism in anybody, we will expose the person. And we are trying to really get the people to understand this. Our religion is a religion that urges us to help support life. Help support life, show compassion, love to life. Yeah, anything contrary to this, that's why the Prophet has been asked, the appellation given to him by the Quran is that we did not send you except for you to be a mercy for the whole of the world. A mercy. So it's just a contradiction in terms that somebody who carries the message of mercy is the one also who teaches how to kill people. The Quran says that if you kill one soul for no reason, it's like you've killed the whole souls of the world. Right. But if you give life, but it's God who gives life. But so figuratively, if God says that give life, whatever you do to support life. So anything that you do contrary to this, yeah. So I think that criminal elements have used the name of Islam. And I think the global community must understand this, so that we should delink Islam from this act and see them as criminal elements who happen to be Muslims. Right. So that we treat them as criminals. So that the murderer doesn't need to have a color to say he's a European or an Asian.
For you, crime is crime.
Crime is crime.
Right.
Crime is crime. And thirdly, let's be careful with Islamic scholars also, who by way of their preaching, give interpretations that emboldens the young people. You know, the young people are already action prone.
Right.
And they're already action prone. They want a message that will push them. Right. So when you are preaching and you don't consider their psychology, and whenever there is, let's say, some little misunderstanding, and you put it out there to them, then you are urging them. But to the contrary, just take the example of the chief imam. I mean, somebody prognosticated that he was going to die. And because of the love the young people have for him, they started to attack his church. Chief imam sends a word, just a word to them. I have not mandated or called anyone to do that in my defense. And that was enough. This is the man who is teaching us the correct practice.
Interesting. Let's bring in another perspective now. Joining us also is a security analyst, Adib Sani. He's been monitoring the situation, even asking for more enhanced measures, not just in mosques and churches across the country, but also public places. Adib, you've been listening to Sheikh as well. What's your take on some of the points that he's raised?
Well, first of all, my kind regards to Sheikh Arabiyao. Indeed, I think there's a need for education for people to be able to identify terrorists rather than people with long beards. Because on several occasions, I've spoken with a number of people. Okay, can you know, sometimes I do carry out some experiments. And about 95% of my respondents said the only way they can identify a terrorist is when he has a long beard. Terrorists don't appear with long beards.
Right.
The terrorists would act like us. They don't want to stand out, okay? Richard Reed, who attempted bombing an airliner in the US, is a white Westerner who could have thought that perhaps he's a terrorist. So I think there's the need for education and for people to be security aware. Not too long ago, I also did an experiment at the mall. I went to buy some items. I was carrying a bag. So I told the attendant that I've left my money in the car, so she should just keep my bag. I'll be right back. And she kept the bag, you know. And some group of persons also decided to do another experiment. They left a bag at the mall unattended to for about 3 hours, and nobody said anything. So I think there's the need for education.
Right.
There's the need for education in our communities with respect to sounding the alarm bells when they see the red flags, especially in the mosque. So we are able to safeguard our communities against this threat.
Well, is it the case that we're not conscious as a people? Is that the challenge?
Largely, Ghanaians are not security conscious. That's the stark truth. Because we've never experienced it before. God forbid, may we never experience it. Someone would put up a huge structure, and I am a security entrepreneur. I'll tell him, look, invest 4,000 CDs on CCTV camera. He goes like, this area is peaceful. We don't experience that. But that very day something would happen, he would call you at 12 midnight. I can't go to bed unless you come do the installation. You see, so generally, we are reactive to issues of security. We are not proactive. How many Ghanaians know how to look out for suspicious behavior? I remember some time ago when a diplomat was kidnapped in Ghana. Thankfully, the authorities were able to fish them out, and he was rescued. The community members, they were like, yeah, something didn't sound right. They saw these individuals, they were new, they drove unregistered vehicles, they lived in a house, they only worked in the night. Everything showed something was not right. But who would take that initiative?
And I'm glad that you're raising this point, because the churches and the mosques as well, they are beginning to direct members to be cautious and to fish out all suspicious characters. What should they be on the lookout for? I guess that's the key point many of them out there will be asking.
Okay, so before I go there, let me emphatically state that it is very difficult to tell who a terrorist is. Your wife at home might be one. Your colleague at work might be one. However, it is still important to look out for some basic, behavior. And I'm a body language expert. I am able to pick up some red flags just from the way the person even handles the rules, or the way the person stands, the way he eats. A lot goes into it. But let me just give you the basics. When someone is so insistent on getting information about where he's not supposed to know much, Oh, is this the minister's house? So does he live here? How often does he come? When the person probes too much, then something is wrong. And if sometimes the terrorists, they test your system, okay? So maybe they might try to stage a cyber attack on your system. Then when you catch them, oh, we are just testing it. So if someone tries to intrude or test a system without it officially mandated, then you have every reason to be worried. And if you go to the mall or a public space and someone is taking pictures secretly in a covert fashion, particularly also of secret locations, then that one too is a problem. So these are just the basic facts to look out for.
But are you also confident that our security agencies will be able to completely deal with the threats that we're facing right now?
Okay, so let me be blunt with you. The threat has been there for some time now. The UN report, in fact, it was submitted to the UN General Assembly earlier this year, points to a suspected terrorist warehouse in Ghana, Togo, and in Benin.
Whoa.
Yes, it's there. It's public information. We have 352 unresolved chieftaincy disputes in Ghana. A lot of unapproved border crossings. So the possibility that there's already a sleeper cell in Ghana is very high. Some raids have been conducted, and I'm hoping we don't have them. But I think it is gone beyond the stage of protecting just the borders to looking within us who are the bad guys. Let's not forget, after the coup in Burkina, a lot of people came in as asylum seekers. We don't know who are legitimate, who are not.
Right.
Like the minister rightly mentioned, there are footpaths that takes you to Togo, Burkina Faso, and all that. So I think we need to improve intelligence, and I'm hoping that it's not too late.
All right, then. I'm grateful. That's Adib Sani. He's a security analyst. Well, Sheikh is still with us as we wrap up on this conversation. There's the issue about youth unemployment. The fact that those participating in some of these activities of violent extremism are getting far more greater rewards than sitting at home. During the Eid celebrations, I recall that the Chief Imam was asking government to stick to its commitment of improving the inner cities and the Zongos as well. What's the concern really of the community on that problem?
Yeah, it's a terrible. I'll qualify it. It's a terrible concern. The concern because we appreciate the difficulties which Nigeria has been facing with the Al-Majiri phenomenon. The Al-Majiri phenomenon, these are young people who come from very poor backgrounds and have been put under the care of very poor Muslim clerics, and their numbers, sheer numbers, keep on multiplying. And these are people, they look dirty, they don't have food to eat, they are so poor, and they are easily deployed. So it is true, when you keep young people unemployed for a long time without the necessary skills or life skills to be able to meander their way through the difficulties of life in a very responsible manner, what will happen is that the criminal elements of society will lead them into some of the destructive side of life, because it takes just something small. I mean, we can see it in vigilantism in our own country here. The young people who are being put in vigilantism, how much money are they given? So they hang on to politicians because they need something, and then the promises that they get. So this is enough for them to be goaded into that kind of life, where they are being reduced to the level of their humanity to tools for violence. So that is exactly what can happen. So the grounds then become fertile for such recruitments. And so that's why government is doing its best. We are saying that probably more needs to be done, create more opportunities, and get young people more employed, strengthen the private sector, because we know government alone cannot employ. And then once they get that, probably we should be able to get our boys. And then the voice of religion, both Christian and Islam, must be stronger in putting into our minds the spirit of love, respect for life, and the respect for the sanctity of human blood. That two religions which are powerful in this country, when we join together and we sell this message across, I'm sure our young people, just on basis of conscience alone, should be enough for us to guarantee our own security.
We have just a minute on this, but talking about powerful voices, the voice of the chief imam is very influential. You speak for him.
Yes.
If you were given that opportunity to send across his message, what will that be?
Yes, I call all Muslim young people to proceed in the life of compassion and respect for life and the sanctity of human blood. That is a very foundation thing about how Islam looks at the human being. And I call them to desist from engaging in extremist and radical tendencies and to be cautious about criminal elements that come in the garb of Muslim clerics to really, deceive them into that kind of life. Islam is peace and nothing more than peace. That's what the Quran says. We did not send the prophet as that he should be a compassion. And they must understand the contradiction in terms that somebody who is sent to be a compassion also be the one who also teaches you to kill. They don't go together. They are diametrically opposed. And so our young people who are now being educated, some of them have been oriented because of some of the Islamic orientation that they have been given, how they have been socialized. And you can see the radicalism on social media. At the eruption of something small that comes, you go to social media, they are not doing it physically, but on social media they are doing it. So radical and extreme. Yeah, so we need to ask scholars like myself and others need to do more to discourage extremism in all forms. Extremism in all forms is not good. The Prophet has told us, permit me if I use the Arabic, khairul umur awsatuha. The best of human affairs are those that are conducted in moderation.
And indeed, moderation is what we all need. Sheikh Karim Shaibu speaks for the national chief.